Hey, She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays the Day podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick, and I have my trusty sidekick with me today, Kirby Brunslick.
Is it weird that I wanted to neigh there? I feel like trusty sidekick makes me sound like your horse. I guess it could be like a superhero sidekick.
Yeah, like Robin.
Yeah, totally. That's really how I view myself.
I view myself like Batman. Actually, yeah, I mean, Batman seems like the
It's because
coolest.
you're rich and grumpy?
Tired. I'm very tired.
You're so not Batman, you go to bed at 9 o'clock.
Wait, is he up at night?
That's where he fights crime.
Are there any superheroes?
He loves the night.
Oh.
He's the Dark Knight.
Oh, yeah.
I just turned into Seinfeld halfway through that. It's the Dark Knight.
Are there any that just fight crime during the day?
I don't know about just the day.
Sorry, guys.
I think a lot of crime happens at night,
9:30.
statistically.
I've had 3 glasses of wine and I'm very sleepy. Call my trusty sidekick.
Maybe that's
Robin.
where, Robin comes in. He fights all the day crime. Or all the night crime. You fight the day crime? I don't know. We'll figure it out.
So it is post-Thanksgiving, and we finally got our tree. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about having to wait until the Sunday after Thanksgiving to get our tree?
I did not love it, but I survived, and I'm working.
How was the delayed gratification?
It was okay. I mean, I knew it was going to be okay, and I filled it with other, like, Christmassy stuff, but I'm also working on not attaching to tradition and making things like it has to be. So, yeah, it was a good opportunity for me to practice growth.
Yeah, you and Charlie put so much, like, being with you guys on the night of Christmas Day is one of the saddest things because you two just have, like, these broken hearts. And so it's been something that, like, for the last couple of years, we've been trying to, it just seems like there's so much buildup to something, and it's like, no, this is it right now. What you're living is, this is Christmas.
Well, and that was one of the things, you know, you had that weekly slay a couple weeks ago about the to-don't list that we talked about last year of, like, you know, we did the whole year of here's all the things we're going to do, and we did most of them and added a bunch more, and that didn't seem to help. So, you know, this year we're trying to do less, but it's not going great.
Yeah, that is a trend I've seen with patients, though, too, of just, they're just back in it. They're just, everything is crazy. Oh, this damn pandemic just won't stop, and people are going on with their lives. But we have our tree. If you did not see our tree, it's quite phenomenal.
It looks really good now. There was quite a bit of work to get it there.
Well, but I think the lesson is that I get to pick out the tree because so here's what happened is last year, we have tall ceilings, 9.5 foot.
Yeah, about 9.5 again.
And Kirby likes fat trees. Yes?
Yeah, depends on the year. The mood strikes me differently of trees, so I like trees. I like Christmas trees.
Such a Christmas weirdo. Anyways, so every time we go out and I'm in this field and we cut down our own tree and I'm like, yeah, so it's not like a tree farm where it's like we want a 9-foot tree for our 9.5 foot ceiling. What is a tree farm?
It's not a tree farm. It's at a tree lot.
You know what also I'm learning is our new roommate has made me realize that not everybody is familiar with this whole cutting down your tree thing.
I love that you just like casually mention our new roommate. Like, oh yeah, you know, the Brunswicks, they have a roommate.
Yep. Yes. We have a intern who is doing her final rotation of chiropractic school, her T10, and her apartment didn't become available until December 1st. She started with us, like the 10th?
Something like that, yeah. I think it's been like 3 weeks where we've been roomies.
Yep, we've been roommates.
The girls love her, so it's fine. Like, it's perfect because, like, she hangs out with us, and the girls, like, Ty just sits in her lap and cuddles her all night until it's time for bed, and she's somehow great about that. And so, yeah.
But anyways, our new roommate is, like, she's talking to all these patients about, like, so do you have a real tree? Like, I don't think it's a thing down in Iowa.
Yeah, I don't think they have the same landscape. I think they just like plant crops. Like, I don't think they have like rolling hills with tree farms. I think like
can't imagine this is much of a thing in California either.
Yeah, I would assume just there's not
Arizona?
real estate. Yeah, they just get a fake tree there.
Yeah. You can't.
So weird.
How much do you think a Christmas tree... Well, first of all, you're not chopping down your own Christmas tree in Arizona.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that is...
But someone might haul them in, you know?
How much do you think a real Christmas tree costs in Arizona?
$125.
Probably.
That's my ballpark.
Anyways, so up here in Wisconsin, we get to cut down our own, and you go to like a tree farm, and it's not like you're like going to the side of the road and you're like, that one looks good.
I'll give you $50 for your tree.
And you just have to kind of guess. Like, is this tree big enough? Small enough?
Well, this year we brought a tape measure.
Yep.
Because Lauren's
Bitched
mandate
and moaned.
was it better touch the ceiling, if not more. She wanted her Griswold family tree moment.
Because last year we got this tree and it was with the star 6 inches short.
It was only 9 feet tall.
It's ridiculous. You didn't like last year's tree either.
I didn't love it, no. It was a little short.
So I was like, listen, because they had talked me out of a tree last year and talked me into one. And I was like, I am picking the tree. And you were very respectful. So when we were out there, the tree that we found was 15 feet tall.
It was 15 feet tall.
But the bottom wasn't like that good anyway. So we're like, we're not going to be using the bottom. So anyways.
So we cut it all the way down. Then I cut off probably another 4 feet. So we still had like an 11-foot tall tree when we brought it inside so that Lauryn could have it bend against the ceiling. And then we laid it back down and I cut off the top 1.5 to 2 feet so that it still scraped the ceiling.
Yes.
Then I had to cut off the top more to get the star in there and then realized that the center stalk was so thick that the star wouldn't go on it.
Because it's a 15-foot Christmas tree.
So I had to custom carve that to balance the star on top.
But it's the most perfect tree.
And the star does touch the ceiling. So.
Yes. Yep. And so we agreed that I will now pick the Christmas tree.
Hold on. We did not agree to that. You did a good job this year with my help.
I had a patient go like, why didn't you just leave it? I'm like, that would have been funny.
It was off balance. It was literally tipping.
That would have been really funny because a full 1.5 feet was like bent up against the ceiling. So we'll see. So anyways, this is the only time you'll be on before Christmas. So last year
I'm the one who puts the podcast up.
Oh,
I'll make my own episode.
All of a sudden, I just get like this flood of messages being like, I loved Kirby's solo episode. I'm like, what the fuck?
Don't try to box me out.
But if you want more Brunswicks share their Christmas spirit, I will direct you to last year's episode number 84. What was it called?
Something Christmas featuring Kirby.
This is not the name at
Holiday
all.
special, top 5 Christmas movies featuring Kirby.
When you say featuring Kirby, it makes you seem really like, I suppose that's how they
That's how we name all of our stuff.
But like featuring Lauryn and Kirby.
They all are yours. You're the main artist. So like when Lil Wayne puts out a song and he has another rapper on it, it's the title of the song featuring extra rapper.
I feel like feet. I'm used to seeing feet.
So you just thought it was their feet?
No, I knew it was FEAT, but like feet doesn't, like I knew feet stood for featuring, but like featuring seems like a really deal. It makes my guest seem more important than me.
And because you're a good host, you do feel that way. And
correct.
You
right.
give the stage to them and promote them and lift them up. Because
anyway,
you're a good person.
Totally a good person. Yep. Episode 84, we battle our favorite top 5 Christmas movies. So,
do you remember what yours are?
I have a rough idea, but I don't want to spoil it for people.
Yeah, I don't know if I fully remember.
I remember
5.
some of yours I greatly disagreed with.
Oh,
I knew that they were your favorite.
On there. Yeah,
I knew they were your favorite, but I was just like, ugh.
Depends on what you're going for.
Dumb answer.
Some is nostalgia, some is like moody, some is...
Did you say booty?
Moody.
Oh, God. I was like, I don't remember
Which one would be booty?
I don't know. That's right. Like, I was like, I don't remember Beyonce's Christmas special being in there. All right, we have work to do, Brunswick.
All right.
Okay. So, we are answering a question today. And the first paragraph is going to be our listener highlight. Mm-hmm. So... do you just want to read the listener highlight and then go into her question and then we'll pray?
So just read the whole thing, then we'll pray.
Yeah.
Okay. You'll understand where it transitions from listener highlight to question.
Maybe you should let him know. I've ended the listener highlight, and I will now be entering the question zone. Make it clear for him. I don't want him confused.
Dear Dr. Lauryn, first off, I just want to say I absolutely love your podcast.
This is the highlight part, guys.
I am 5 months into practice working for a male doc that I love, but there is so much that I learned from you that I could never learn from him. So thank you for doing this.
Like vaginas, things like that.
That was the end of the listener highlight portion. Now, for the question. In your podcast, you talk about one of your core values as adventure/travel, and I totally feel that because same. But lately, I have been thinking a lot about my desire to travel, and I'm wondering if you ever feel like this has been more of a desire to escape your current situation, sometimes rather than to just see new places. I love seeing the world, or even just a new town or experience a few hours away. But sometimes after travel, when I get back, reality hits so hard that I wonder if I should have gone in the first place. I have not yet listened to all the episodes, though I will get there for sure. So if this has already been discussed, sorry to double up. Again, so much love and thanks for you and what you're doing for all the females in our profession. Love, 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 Dr. Rachel.
Oh, you should have exited the question
that last
zone
sentence.
And re-entered the listener highlight. Read it again. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So we have not addressed this topic, and I'm excited to. But before we do that, we are going to pray. And you know you're in charge of praying.
I understand.
Praying.
Now entering the prayer section.
Now entering the prayer portion of the podcast.
Dear God, thank you for bringing us this question. It's a good one to think about. It's an important thing to think about because I think it's something that's relatable to a lot of people, and I know especially in our lives. Help us to speak truth and have your wisdom flow through us. Help us and Dr. Rachel to examine ourselves and try to find where we can connect with you and what we love about travel and connecting with others. Thank you for this beautiful big world that we all have some desire to explore and see more of. In your name we pray. Amen.
You do such a good job with prayers.
Thanks.
I should just have you feature you in prayers more often. Just come on and then be like, all right, get out of here. It's
Get
my
out of
question
here.
to answer. This is my question. Okay. So I think the first thing that has to be addressed is the reality that so many people can likely resonate with this more than ever because of the pandemic.
Yeah, just the stir crazy aspect of it.
I mean, you and I were supposed to go to Morocco in September of 2020.
Yep.
And then it was like, oh, okay, well, next year. I mean, never in a million years did I think a year. Like, it's just been a hot minute since. I mean, we've done some traveling.
Yeah, but even then, there's the traveling doesn't quite feel the same, as it did pre-pandemic. The whole thing has an air of a little more stress to it, especially airline travel. And there's studies in psychology that say like people long-term remember feelings, and feelings near the end of an experience can really taint how they feel about the entire experience. So if you spend the final 4 hours of a trip with a mask on and stressing that you're not doing it right, or your kid's going to wear their masks or whatever, like it kind of just adds a little like, ugh, to the end of a trip.
So I think even for some people who maybe don't identify as somebody who seeks adventure, I think there is a little bit of like, can we just have some fun here? Can the world just be a little less heavy right now? Like, can we all just? So what I would say is, as we start to kind of wrap our head around, like, what is she really asking here? What's really going on? Is I would say, first and foremost, you got to dig deep into what does the travel bring? And Rachel might go, well, I told you, it brings me adventure. Go like, okay, but what is the adventure? What does that bring for you? So you like travel.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done a few
You've done
trips.
a couple trips.
I like me some travel.
Would you say that like travel, adventure, whatever is like a core value to you?
It facilitates my core values. I don't know if in and of itself.
Is your core value just hanging out with me?
Just hanging out with you, totally. I think I love learning. I like learning about new cultures and I love connection, whether that's with my family or other people. And those new experiences give that.
I'm less of a bitch and easier to connect with when I am traveling.
And we're fully present with our kids because the whole point is that there's nothing else to do. We, get to be more patient with them. We get to, be silly or adventurous with them versus having so much responsibility. And part of like the way I travel is when we do go somewhere, I try to like find either fiction or nonfiction book that's from or about that area. You really do.
You're such a nerd.
Kirby
has read so many weird books
So I'll read like a pirate book in the Caribbean or like a history of Mexican Indians if we're in Mexico or something, kind of American Southwesty. If we're in Mexico, I read a book about Haiti while we were in the Dominican last.
Did it make you glad you were in the Dominican and not Haiti?
Yes, and it also made me glad it was also not the Trujillo era of...
that Trujillo
era. No, that was Dominican. Never mind. It was Dominican book. Okay. So.
Anyways, so I see what you're saying. So for me, I would say that the being on vacation, so I'm a little bit of a workaholic. We don't know her Enneagram, which really...
She just be a 7, and it's just like,
No, we can't just say she's a 7.
I'm saying if she was, that would help with a lot. If she's a 7,
then, okay, your problem is you're a 7. So for me, as a 3, I have definitely realized my workaholism. And vacation brings... I know some workaholics like to keep working. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll post on social media for sheslays, but like to me, that's just fun. Yeah. That's not working. For me, I have no problem while being on vacation completely clocking out, which is nice because I can't do that in town. So like for me, the like road trip, the whatever, it's like I am clocked out and my brain, that is a nice rest. If I don't have an excuse of being I'm on vacation, I struggle.
Yeah.
So the other thing is just like the newness. As a part 7, I definitely like that excitement of new bars, new tours, new restaurants, new shows, new architecture, new hikes, new scenery. Mm-hmm. Just new. And so for me, travel it's new. It's the unknown of what is tomorrow going to be like. And I feel like that unknown and excitement of travel is what it definitely, that's what travel and adventure brings for me.
Yeah, so you're saying what Rachel kind of needs to do is assess like what is it for her?
What does travel bring? Yeah, it gives you the excuse to check out? Is it
that novelty aspect? Are you the kind of person who, if they can't travel, would rearrange their apartment 6 times because they need new?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, she's at an interesting place in her career, which I think, we're going to kind of go forward as if this might be the root of an issue because I think it'll be the most helpful for as much of our audience as possible. But there is something that happens with a lot of new grads where, even though, I knew I was going to be a chiropractor when I was 12. Mm-hmm. I knew I was going to chiropractic school, but every 3 months I got new courses. Mm. And in my courses, there were new people and there were new times. So my schedule changed. And now all of a sudden I don't work out at 3 p.m. I work out at 9 a.m. because I don't start classes till noon. And then and there's new coffee shops to study in and new tests and new weekend adventures with college because college kids are always doing stuff.
Yeah, there's nothing else to do. Yeah.
And Then you go to chiropractic school and it's very similar and it's a lot of new stuff. And then you're thinking about, like, you get to anticipate what your first job is going to be. And you're like, oh my gosh, I just can't wait until I'm done with school and I start making money and I'm going to, like, be a chiropractor. And you maybe dream about the town you're going to move to and all the adventures that that's going to bring because your hometown is so lame. Yeah, you know, that was my experience.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to move to Rice Lake.
Super exciting.
Oh, Rice Lake's going to be amazing. And then you get there, so whether you're an associate or a new doc, and then it's still new. It's new patients they're calling and new problems to solve and new furniture for your waiting room. And just still, it's just new. Again, even if you're an associate, you're learning all these new people and all these new systems and all this new. And it's exciting and overwhelming. And then around 5 months in, I mean, it's I would say definitely around that half-year mark, it loses a little bit of its luster. It doesn't mean, for me, it wasn't that I didn't love chiropractic. I mean, you went into, how long were you in corporate America, like going to that office?
Oh, like going to that office 3 years? Something like that?
So, like, did you have that, like, oh, this is it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There's that feeling of, and I mean, and that's even when, I don't know if it's because the goalposts are a little farther away of like, yeah, I'll go from junior associate to consultant, but that might, sorry. Do you feel good now?
I do, thanks. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that technically it would be further away.
Okay. So the fact that the next step up was potentially farther down the road.
Did you do that on purpose?
Your face.
Why would you do that after you just made me correct you?
I'm
distracted. I want to know your point, but you keep being grammatically incorrect, so I get distracted.
No, the fact that it seems
it's going to take longer.
It's going to take longer. And
did that help or discourage?
I think that made it more discouraging. And when the projects, especially if you got on a long project, it wasn't like the turnover of a semester. And you knew that, like, you were in your, for me, I thought I was in my job for, I don't know, maybe indefinitely. Maybe I worked my way up this company for the rest of my life. Like, that's a weird thing. That's a weird psychological thing to settle into of like, oh, and you see people who are older in it, and sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes that's a bad thing. Sometimes you go like, oh, I'm going to be 40 and I'm going to be like Bill. Whew.
Cool. Yeah. Well, and I think that, I never want to, like, layer in any guilt or not guilt, not shame. Like, but where you're at in your personal relationship journey also. So for us, we were married. And so right around the time that I was like, these patients keep coming in with the same problems, even though they're, the problems, like, they were kids and stuff like that. It's a lot of the same problems, a lot of the same questions. People have the same damn questions about chiropractic. Right around then, I was able to be like, we're having a baby. And so my brain could be, like, excited about that next stage. But if you're...
And as a business owner, we also had the, like, let's get to 100 patients. Let's get to 2. Like, we kind of kept on the treadmill.
Yeah.
Too, of, like... Which is fine. I think there's a mix here of like things you can do versus things you can be type of stuff. But like, yeah, we always went, especially if you're an associate, you don't necessarily have that feeling of control and reward loop that a business owner might have of like, let's make this much, now let's make that much. And with that, you get the immediate feedback of that cash.
Much more immediate feedback when you're in the driver's seat. And she says she loves her, job, which is great. But yeah, so this stage that you're at is, I think, a very, very common stage where you're like, so this is what I just worked the last 20 years, went to school for 20 years for. The rest of my life.
I'm doing this.
Cool. I remember, God, this was like 2 years ago. Charlie was 7. She's in 2nd grade. And we were talking on Sunday, and she was kind of like sad. Charlie is the most like old soul, mature person I've ever met. And she was like kind of sad, and we're talking about, she's talking about how like tomorrow's Monday, and it's just school again. And I'm like, and I'm like thinking in my head, like, girl, the rest of your life is monotony. But I wasn't going to say that because I'm not a jerk. But she figured it out, and she's like, then I just keep going to school, and then I'll go to middle school, and then I'll go to high school, and then I'll go to college. And I'm like, yeah, but then you'll get a job that you love. And she's like, yeah, but then I'll go to that job every day. And I'm like, yeah, life's kind of Groundhog's Day, kids. Sorry that you had this realization at 7, but Rachel's having it now. But yeah, it's so getting to that kind of the like, what do you do about that? I think if first she kind of brought up that she does love her job.
Yeah.
But for other people who might be struggling with a similar thing of just like, I just want to get away. I think you need to assess the obvious of like, you're an associate. Do you like your current job? And again, Rachel does, but like, maybe you thought you were going to love pediatrics, but you find that you are just freaking exhausted and you kind of like adults better. And like, or you don't like the headache of insurance for the clinic that you signed up for, or I don't know, the new patients they get are not nervous system focused, or, I think because if you don't like your job.
Yeah, I would put a little bit of caveat there of 5 months in may or may not be enough time, depending on like if you lack expertise or if you're learning something new, there is a big hill to climb, but the view is great from the top of the hill if you're climbing the right hill.
Yeah, I would say 5 months in is where you start to think, is it the job? And even if you go like, yeah, I think, or is it the specific location of the job, I think you still put in a year because you can't really trust that like 5 months in, you're like, yeah, this job is boring. And it's like, yeah, but the next job might be boring too. But if you can really pinpoint like, I thought I was going to feel fine being away from my family, but knowing that I can't even go home on Thanksgiving is affecting me way more than I thought. This is where you would start being like, okay, I would recommend
to see those patterns,
sitting it out for a year for sure. But like, be prepared for like, maybe you picked the wrong first job. And I would argue that no job is the wrong first job because
you learn something.
But assuming that she loves her job and chiropractic, like I don't see any question in there about.
Nope. She seems quite happy. She seems like she has a great podcast that she listens to that gives her great advice.
She's just really well supported by her female mentors in life.
And sometimes featuring Kirby.
Yeah, he sure gets the starlight. Jeez Louise. Okay, so what do we old millennials? Because like, I don't know, I feel like you and I have a foot in, what's before millennials? Gen Z? Like, as old millennials, I feel like we definitely can relate to a lot of different things here. And so it's kind of like, let me help you transition into adulting. It sucks, but it's the truth. What is this accent I'm doing? This is like, it's like old wise Irish? Man.
Oh.
Old
sounded
wizard.
Kind of Irish.
It's more wizard. I think it probably would have transitioned Irish.
I don't think you keep going with it.
No, we know where it goes.
Yep, your accents get Asian, and it's not intentional.
I don't know why. No,
but it's always.
But it goes through weird. Like a weird thing of like Jamaican. That
it's a route to Asia goes through.
Anyways,
Jamaica.
That was my old wizard accent.
Oh, okay. So, what advice do we have to
help her settle into adulting?
Well, I think part of it comes back to the assessment of like, what do you get from travel and how can you bring some of that to where you are? Because if you're always looking for the next time you're going to travel and you need that, that can somewhat sustain you, but eventually that, unless it's really close, you're going to have to slog through a few months before your next trip or your next thing. Like, what is the thing that you're finding when you're traveling that you can then incorporate into your weekend?
So, like,
or your free time.
For me, I talked about like workaholism. And we have incorporated Sabbath into our weekends, which I don't love. I do not turn off on Sabbath as easily as I do when I'm on a plane flying somewhere.
Because it takes time too.
Yeah.
Like, and you get that physical separation. It feels different.
So like looking at, okay, what does the adventure bring you? Is it the ability to shut your brain off? Is it connection? How do you find meaningful connection with your friends on the weekends or your family? Or is it the newness? Like, she lives in the Bay Area?
Yeah, if it's the right person I found on Instagram, I believe she lives in the Bay Area. You
stalked her?
Well, she gave the Instagram handle in the thing, so I wanted to like...
I am so sorry, Rachel. That is creepy.
This is all public information.
Listen. It is really funny, side note, how we pretend, like, not like you and I, how you and I pretend we're not stalkers. That was my Batman. That wasn't my Batman.
That was close.
It was more. So we were corresponding with a couple that, oh gosh, I don't want to jinx things, but we're going to be adding a puppy to our family in the next week. Just don't want to jinx it. And a couple weeks ago, they're like, and the puppy's like 10 hours away. And there's another family that like the breeder reached out and was like, hey, you're both from Wisconsin. Maybe, I don't know how far apart you are, but maybe you guys could coordinate, puppy travel things. And like within 10 seconds, it was like, oh, what's their name from the email? Okay, here's their LinkedIn. Oh, they're in Madison. And so, like, I wanted to respond to the email of the breeder of, like, hey, I see you guys are in Madison. We're actually... And I was like, oh, wait, I can't do that.
Pretend like we didn't just Google them.
I have to pretend I didn't Google you. But, like, it's so weird.
It's
But, like,
so
even when
easy.
you're interviewing people, too, of, like, like, I have to pretend that I didn't immediately look you up on Facebook when you applied.
That was a hypothetical situation and nothing that's ever happened. We would not use social media to judge pre-qualify candidates.
Because that's illegal.
Depending on what you look at.
We all pretend that that's what we don't do. So anyways, Kirby stalked you, Rachel. I'm really sorry. Apparently you
It helps to answer the question.
It does.
It's just funny that like it's the human condition of she lives in an area that 99.9% of the world would go, well, if I could go somewhere.
Oh my gosh. I mean, she's an hour and a half from Lake Tahoe. She's got mountains. She's got surfing. She's got Chinatown.
Yeah, she's got one of the most multicultural and interesting cities on the planet. I mean, it's expensive. And
I will say that if we bring up this whole pandemic thing,
COVID might have changed some of that.
You might have limited options depending on your status. But yeah, like, so what were we saying? Oh, like, you live in a really exciting area. If new is what you're going for here, then take a new class. Sign up for a tour like you would if you were a tourist. Go
experience other cultures because there's a ton around you. If outdoor stuff is your jam, then everything within 2 hours of you is amazing in different ways.
Yeah, because a lot of times when we're on vacation, we have to be off of default. Because we have to be thinking about it. We don't know how to get to the grocery store. We don't know how to, like, everything. It's that newness that really makes you be present and not on default. And it's just funny how you can live in one of the most exciting cities and be like, well, what do you do on the weekend? I walk to the coffee shop 2 blocks down, and then I take my dog for a walk, and then I go to the gym, and then I watch a movie and meet friends for pizza. They're around the corner,
Well, I think I've talked to you about this before, but there was a study done in the 1990s by Daniel Kahneman and some other people. I forget their names, but it was a study on perception of happiness based on where you live. So they asked people from the Midwest and people from California.
Are these like Minneapolis Midwest people, or are they like Wanakee? That's a big city in whatever. I just didn't want to insult anyone or the rice lake people.
I can go find the study. I haven't read the original study. I've just read articles about the study.
Broad people from Wisconsin who still lived in cool Madison and Milwaukee.
Do you want to know what the study says?
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I won't interrupt.
All right. So they asked people from the Midwest and they asked people from California how happy they were. So they recorded all those answers. And then they also asked them, who do they think is happier, people who live in the Midwest or people who live in California?
Okay.
And they asked a few more questions about like weather and stuff too, because I think that was part of what they were getting at. So what they found is they assumed, people from Wisconsin assumed that people in California were happier and it was due in part to better weather. People in California assumed that people in California were happier than people in the Midwest, partly due to weather.
Weather plays so much into this.
They were both the same amount of happy. So they were both happy, and they both thought that people in California were happier. Isn't that interesting? Like,
it is interesting. Because, yeah,
so it didn't actually create more happiness. It just, in fact, I would argue, since they can statistically prove that seasonal affective disorder can make you sadder, that people in the Midwest are truly happier because they're fighting uphill.
Yes, we are technically
No, there's other studies that talk about seasonal change being a good thing too. But it gets to that point of you can be where everyone thinks they want to be, and you still aren't truly happy. That's a pretty universal thing. That's the hedonic treadmill stuff of you just get very used to wherever you are. And you know, your brain wants new stimulus. It's a crazy little monkey.
Yeah, there have been, I saw a meme the other day that talked about like, it was like me on vacation anywhere. I should move here. I don't know if there's been many places that we have traveled to that I haven't thought like, if I lived here, I would just yada, 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 and I'd set up this, and then my brain is smart enough now that it goes like, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't go to the beach every day because you'd be working.
Yeah.
And then your kid would have swim practice, and so you'd go right from swim to the grocery store, and then you come home and have to put him to bed and do homework, and then you gotta be to work. Like, no, you wouldn't. So you're better off just keeping this as a vacation. Okay, so that's number one. Incorporate whatever travel brings you into your weekends, into your off time, into your personal life. Like
including
really
local travel. Like,
yes.
I mean, travel is not necessarily the enemy here, but it can be, if it's causing you some distress, how can we make the obstacle into the way? How can we find out, like, what can we learn from that?
But here's the problem. So let's say she does like a weekend, she leaves Friday night at 5 and doesn't have to be back until Sunday at 10 p.m. She does a little road trip. She talks about the reality hitting and like how she wishes she wouldn't have even gone in the first place, or she wonders if she should have even gone in the first place. And I mean, I can relate to, are you ready for this? I have a study.
Ooh.
Okay, but I'm going to butcher it because my brain is shit and I don't remember anything.
Hey, don't talk about my friend that way.
I love you. So Mondays used to be, like, especially Mondays after holidays, after vacations, I used to go through a little bit of like, just like Monday blues, depression stuff. It wasn't like it would last 2 weeks, but like it could easily last to Wednesday type of thing. And talking to my sister-in-law, she talked about how, where that is a normal thing, that like when you have a high, the body goes through a low. Okay. And that has just been studied in mice, and it's just a normal thing that like biologically happens as our body kind of finds its way back to normal. Yep. I mean, not necessarily homeostasis, but like you're not going to be in a high. Even if you moved there, you know, you wouldn't be in that high. Yeah. So then you don't just come back to normal. You like the pendulum swings. Yep. And so she said, like, you know, one of the things that you might want to consider is incorporating that sad day back or into your vacations. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And she was like, you know, come back on Saturday and allow yourself Sunday to
Could
do
the
laundry.
maximizer in you do that?
No. But here's what I will say.
It's a great idea. I'm going to ignore it.
But I don't double down on the emotions on Monday when I am sad and I'm like, Christmas is over. Or like, I want to be back in Mexico. It brings me peace to go, what you're feeling is your brain coming back to normal and is a very healthy thing. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with your life. It doesn't mean that you're trying to escape your life. It doesn't, like, I love my home. I love my husband. I love my job. I love my employees. I love my kids. So just because sometimes though, when you're sad, the brain seeks to like...
It wants a reason.
Your mind
so
then you're kind of
confused
of like, well, why am I sad? Am I sad because I don't like my life?
Well, and then you can compound that and feel guilty for feeling bad about a good life. And
Yep. So I would say of like reality hits of like, okay, fine. Here are your options. Don't go on any trips. So you can just stay normal and never leave your default. Or you can just kind of accept that like there's a lot of things that happen post. I mean, when I'm on vacation, I am not sleeping enough. I'm overstimulated. I'm eating foods I would not normally eat. I'm off my diet. I'm not working out. I'm not meditating. I'm not praying. I'm drinking way too much. And so like, honestly, just from a metabolic state, your body is like, whoa, hello.
Yeah, and kind of getting to that maximizer thing that I was just joking about with you is the idea of if that's how you travel and the travel is supposed to be a rest, so you're working your butt off at your job, and then you have this trip that's supposed to somehow recharge you, but you spend the entire time maximizing, of course you're going to be dreading coming back to more work.
Yeah, because you never got your vacation.
You never turned it off. If you haven't used any part of your trip to recharge, or especially the part right before you come back, then yeah, I would dread that too. If I didn't feel like I got
unless you're a weirdo workaholic, for the most part, it takes quite a bit of vacation time of doing nothing where you're like, I am bored with this. I want to get back in the office and to my routine. Like it takes like, because we've done like 8-day, 10-day, well, I mean, we've done some long vacations, and I definitely get to that point where I'm like, I am so freaking sick of vacationing. I just want to sleep in my bed. I want to show up to my clinic and like, but that takes a while.
Yeah.
And so, even if you go on a purely like, I am going to go to a retreat for the next 4 days and it's like chill, and you're like, I was supposed to recharge. It's like, the way we run our world, like it takes more than 4 days to recharge.
Well, and plus I think part of that equation too is that we built something that you want to come back to, that fulfills you in a way that is deep, and it also scratches your itches too. Like we built a clinic that meets your personality, and you keep changing things to have that novelty that you like so much. We run new things, we tackle new problems. And I think that's something that she can incorporate into her life too, is your work, the things we talked about of what you like from travel, where can you incorporate some of those things in your work too?
Yep.
So if it is that novelty, I don't know what the bounds of an associate.
Yeah, it really depends. But if it is like you're just wanting new things, like maybe pick up an ICPA course, learn, go to a technique seminar. We probably can't change the technique of the clinic, but like go learn about juicing or...
I mean, as a business owner, I would prefer fertility ideas that would in some way increase revenue or reach.
Yeah. Okay. So if it's like, all right, go learn what's a patient or type of patient that comes with a type of problem that you're not seeing enough of, that you're really interested in. So like, do you want to kind of start learning about fertility issues? Like go to a fertility seminar, read a fertility book, ask your doc if you can do a webinar on fertility and bring in fertility patients. Like do you really love connection, and, you know, maybe you're just the adjusting isn't allowing you to have enough connection. You know, can you take over more progress exams and new patients? Maybe your doc hates that, and you can be like, how about I do a majority, you know, like,
yeah, give yourself that challenge, that uniqueness, that's something different.
Oh, Rachel, do not go to your boss and say, I'm bored with this job, here's how it can be more exciting. This is a landmine of a conversation.
This is the thing that you sort out on your own,
yes,
mentally, and then you come with a solution and not even mention the problem.
Don't even mention the problem, okay? Do not complain to Gary, okay? That's his name.
That's Gary.
Yeah. I don't know.
I was wondering if you really stalked her.
No, this is not his problem. He presented the job. This is like, I went into my like CEO, my arms are even crossed of like, this is not Gary's problem that you're bored with life. So it would be more of like you doing the work and figuring out, do you even, like, if you're just really satisfied with your job, then that's not the issue. And hopefully we've solved it by now. But if you're like, oh, we see so many low back patients, and I've dealt with, irregular menstrual cycle my whole life. It's something that I'm really interested in. Then what that conversation would be like is not, hey, Gary, I'm bored with low back pain. I don't like seeing those patients. Can I get new patients that are more interesting? It would be like, hey, I notice that this is something I'm really interested in, and I notice we don't have many patients coming in with this, and I could see, like, would you be open to me trying to bring in more new patients?
Yep.
Type of thing. And then you got to realize that there's a chance Gary may say, like, well, I don't know anything about that. I don't want to bring in patients that I don't know anything about. And then I don't know what to say there. That's not your question. So then what you're going to do, I'm just kidding. So just see how can you incorporate it into your 9 to 5. And then kind of the third and final thing that is for your peace of mind is understanding that you are in the season of starting your career. Mm-hmm. It's not about play. And some people are going to listen to this and be like, oh my gosh, no, you should play all day, every day. You're never guaranteed tomorrow. But like,
it's really hard because there's the now you and there's the future you, and you need to understand the balance of those two, because the people who do say just play all day, depending on what that means to them. I mean, if that means slack off on your job, put in the bare minimum so you can have as much time playing Frisbee in the park, that may make you somewhat happy right now. But then if you're 45 and buried in student debt still, and you have 3 kids now, and you have to keep working harder and more hours, like, and you don't have the energy, like we're already experiencing, I don't know about you, but like, I'm glad we had kids when we did, because I feel like the energy of a 20-year-old was just there. Like, as you get older, you start to lose some of that energy. And I think people have talked about it. I know Gary Vee can kind of be controversial because he's all over the place, but like, I think he talked about, if you want to be a millionaire in your 40s, you kind of give up a big chunk of your 20s and 30s.
Well, and Jay Shetty, that's...
Yeah, the monk. Yeah.
So I was listening to a podcast episode of his where he talked about this illusion of like people who have it all. And he really does talk about the seasons of life. And he talks about how like kind of that first season is that workaholic season where your health and happiness and connection with family and friends and travel are not the number one priority. The number one priority, and he was saying for like him, when he looked at his life, where he is now, people like to be like, oh my gosh, you're happy, healthy, successful. I wish I could have it all. And he's like, it didn't start that way. Yeah. It started with me hustling for years. And that was the season of life. And then once I got a little more stability, then it kind of transitioned, so. Yeah.
And you don't, it's maybe some people can find it, but I would say a lot of the time, if you're the 45-year-old CEO who can delegate and take vacations and stuff whenever they want, the way you got so good at that was intensely focusing for a decade and beating your head against a wall and learning all these lessons so that you could get to that level of ability. There's not really great shortcuts to that.
There's not good shortcuts to that, of being really financially, and so I feel like the jerk here. And we don't even know, again,
well,
Rachel.
I think the previous advice too is, so like, let's put out a scenario where typical, she's a chiropractor who comes out of school with a couple $100,000 of debt, and she lives in a fairly expensive area, but still wants to do stuff. And I'm assuming that her bosses, she says she loves her boss, so she's probably getting paid pretty good, but even pretty good is not going to take away all that student debt and cost of living. So like, it's kind of that balance of, what do you want now to look like? You have a pretty good idea of what that is. What do you want life to look like at 35 or 45 or 55? And then you kind of got to do the math of like, if you know in your soul that you want to retire by 50 and travel the world being a associate relief doc at resorts, well, that's a different math than spending, all your weekends and all your money now.
Yeah.
Like, those two things don't necessarily match up because you're still going to have student debt.
Well, and financially, there are cheaper ways to travel. You can do a road trip and go for a hike versus get on a plane and go hiking in Hawaii type of thing. So yeah, it's that delayed gratification, which is never fun to talk about. It's much easier as a mentor to slay the people saying you just got to hustle and do your time. Like, it's much easier to be like, no, you deserve everything you ever dreamed of right now. And it's like, come on, the math. Yeah. Okay. But.
And I would even kind of turn that, like, when people do like the woo woo thing of like, you deserve everything right now, or like the universe, all those things. When I read some of the original text stuff or go like deep into Buddhism or deep into Christianity, like, so much of that is not getting what you want. It's wanting what you get. It's gratitude. Like, whenever deeply spiritual teachers are talking about things, it gets twisted in modern times of like, if you really believe and love God, then you'll get the yacht. Like, no, what they were saying was you could look at a flower and the universe is in that flower if you're grateful and present and with it. So the idea is more about being grateful for what's happening in front of you, because the universe is unfolding right now in this moment, if you're just quiet enough and with it.
Mm-hmm. I too have studied Buddhist things. I follow someone on Instagram who posts a lot about Buddhist shit. And so she is not like, not like, I think she's from India.
So possibly Hindu?
I don't know. She's from not America.
Okay.
Definitely not Canada either, or Europe.
Okay.
Okay. But she was talking about how Western culture has this obsession with deserved happiness that much of the world does not have. And she talked about how this lie that we tell ourselves that we deserve happiness and fulfillment and purpose in every moment, and if you don't, you're doing it wrong, is a lie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's that idea of happiness versus, I would even say joy is probably a better goal, and equanimity is an even better one.
What's equanimity?
It's a ability to roll with things and find peace. And it sounds bad, like when people, because it sounds like you're shaving off the highs and the lows, which you kind of are. But
if you don't want the lows, but
yeah, but it's one of those things of if you attach to the momentary happiness of a high and you go, I deserve this, or look what I did.
This is what life should, air quotes, feel like if I was doing life correctly and I was in perfect alignment with my soul's purpose and then this is what life could feel like all the time. And that's a big fucking lie.
Yeah.
And that's like a Western civilization thing.
Yeah.
That like, because we have mentors on stages being like, you should not be unhappy for one moment.
Yeah.
Look at me. I changed my life and I'm happy every single day. And I'm like, what?
It's all bullshit. But so like then that's the question of, so then you get the lesson of, well, be grateful or have equanimity. And then that's how. The only things that I've seen is having some kind of practice. And that practice, I think we talked a little bit with Dr. Mo and Dr. Mack about that, of like your practice can look different. I would say, given the stuff that you're talking about of feeling like the need to go elsewhere or worrying about coming back, I think a gratitude practice would be a great start. Whether that's a 5 to 10 minute meditation on what you're grateful for immediately, not putting it into the future or what's coming up, but like, what do you have now that you are grateful for? Or every day before you go to bed, write down 10 things that you're grateful for today to get you more rooted in being okay with where you are now and seeing the wonder all around you. Because it's really easy. Like we talked about, our brains are just kind of like, you can feel a little discomfort and then your brain wants to go find an answer. With a nice meditation and focusing on where you are, you can kind of reverse that of like feeling how good you can feel and being grateful for what you have.
Yep. And then that allows you to like still go on the trip. But it's just then when you return, it's taking this of like, okay, my body is feeling some feelings about, coming back from the trip, and like using that gratitude to help like ease you into Monday. And like, because constantly going like, okay, I'll set up rewards and goals and I'll get to go on this trip in February. And then I'm just going to sit and wait until that trip comes and like, and then no shit, the trip's over and you're sad because you're going back to work. Well, because you made all life about the next thing. Yeah.
And I would say to go even farther is
damn it, Kirby, it's further.
Sorry, that one was actually unintentional. I'm sorry.
Were you intentionally doing the other ones?
The second one.
You jerk.
To go even further with that is, it's not just that you're making it about the next thing, is that you're making it about you. And that's a big trap of anxiety, and bad feelings come from when you're constantly assessing the world and how you feel and what's next for you and what am I going to do about this. It's really easy to kind of that's what anxiety is you're worried about existential threats to you and what's happening to you. One of the things that can foster gratitude and connection, if that's part of what you love about travel, is taking those lessons you learn from travel, what you like, if it's novelty or connection or whatever, and seeing how you can bring those experiences to other people. It's kind of that thing where when you go to teach something, you learn the material even better. Like when you try to create an experience for other people, you get so much of that same thing. So being involved in your community or doing something for your family or if you, I don't know if you have a boyfriend or husband or wife or whatever, but if you can think about what is going on in their lives and try to create a better experience for them, getting outside of yourself is a really helpful thing if you're dealing with any kind of lack of gratitude or having anxiety. I kind of equate it to like, it's a little of what I'm trying to do this year is what I think messes with me during Christmas time sometimes is I'm trying to create that feeling and recreate a tradition for me so that I can feel good. But the reason those things were magical is because someone else did them for me. So now what I want to do is try to create magical experiences for you and the girls. And
I look forward to this. Good. I like this goal of yours.
And in that, I'll probably find something better than if I was just going around going like, I don't feel it yet. Like, did I not make the hot cocoa right? Like, I want to like feel cozy and, like I did back then. It's like, no, create something new. And in that novelty, you find presence too. Sorry, I got pretty woo-woo there at the end, but that's all right. I'm reading Ram Dass right now, so I'm in it.
I'm reading Instagram. Ram Dass, it's real good. Any closing thoughts, I feel like it's always funny when we have this one-way conversation with someone where I just picture them like 7 minutes into the episode being like, nope, you read it wrong. Nope, totally. And then just 50 minutes.
You looked at the wrong Instagram profile. I live in Omaha and I don't have any of those problems.
You know what? People in Omaha, you can experience all the same things that Kirby just talked about.
Exactly. I mean, happiness is where you are, if you just let it be.
Yeah. Wherever you are, there you are. Wherever you go.
Wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
So be here now.
Okay, well, we hope that this episode brings so much joy to all of you. And we hope that you are being present in this season of gratitude and service, and that we love you.
And since I won't see you till Christmas, Merry Christmas.
Oh my God. Stop it with the Christmas thing. Oh my gosh, you guys, I have to live with him. All right, until next week, She Slayers. Bye.
Bye.